Hello and welcome to the final episode of the season of View from the Tilton Road. Joining me, Kieran, your host for this episode, and Elliot is Kane Styles. Kane, thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks for having me, lads.
Good to have you on. Obviously, probably one of the best Blues fans on Twitter, especially for one of the Villa fans. So good to get your opinion on on the overview of a crazy season. Obviously, we'll start with the last few games, really, and just the squad rotation, the youngsters that have come in, and obviously just your overall thoughts for the season, mate. But Elliot, what first of all, what did you think of the past few games?
Yeah, probably the same. I'm probably thinking the same as you guys. Like, it obviously disappointing to lose both games, but I think we had a perfect opportunity to look at several players that obviously, you know, we're going to be looking for new contracts and whatnot. And it was a perfect chance to see what they can do. And 4-0 and 5-2. You know, I don't think many of them have done themselves much good, to be honest. There was one or two that you know, useful, but we'll get into that in a moment. But yeah, our season finished after Derby, didn't it, guys? Like, you know, once we got that result and we were up, staying up, you know, that was it. It was job done.
I think I'm not going to say I don't care whether we win or lose a game, because I do. I never want to see us lose. But you think to get to a point with 2 games left in the season where we're guaranteed safety, I never thought that would be the case. I thought you thought inevitably it was going to go to the last day for us again. It always does. So when you're watching the results roll in last weekend and you see Cardiff 1 up and 2 up, there was part of me that thought, well, we're safe, so it doesn't mean as much. At the same time, you know, you want these youngsters that have come in to kind of to put on a show and kind of make a claim for a place next season. You know, your likes of Miller and Sturck and what have you. But I think ultimately the results, although they don't mean much, does give Bowyer a bit of food for thought for the pre-season, doesn't it now? I mean, Kane, what did you think of the last couple of games?
Yeah, I mean, if you'd have told us we'd have been safe, we've got 2 games to spare in March or whenever we got rid of Karanka, I thought we were done, to be honest. I thought we were done. I thought, you know, and the games where, you know, we played Norwich, we didn't play badly, we ended up losing. Just games where we weren't playing too, you know, badly, but we were still not coming away with anything from the games. And I thought at that point, look, how can we turn this around? I didn't think we would. And even when we brought Bowyer in, I wasn't convinced he was going to be enough to keep us up. Wasn't sure if he had enough time to do it, but I mean, what's he taught? You know, until the last 2 games where we've thrown the kids in, I think we've took 17 points from 8 games. You know, I think from since he's come in, I think we've been in the top 6 form-wise. So we can't ask for any more. You know, he's done an unreal job for us. And yeah, as I say, you know, the last couple of games, like you said, Kieran, we never want to see us lose, but we've been in a privileged position where we can afford to not throw a couple of games, but give them a bit more. You know, if there's any dilemmas over team selectors next season, let's even, you know, the inclusion of Jonathan Lecco every game since he's come in, basically, that, you know, can we just give him the run of games to get into confidence? But things like that, like, you know, he hasn't hit the ground running at all, has he? So there's a few things like that will help his decision making for who's going to go in the summer, who's going to stay, who can prove themselves. I just think it gives us a good overview of, you know, what's to come in the summer. You know, the likes of Ryan Sturck, I think he's potentially going to be a good player in a few years. You know, retains the ball well, pings it around a little bit. Looks promising, I think. You know, you look at the likes of Charlie Lakin, who he's been out on loan. Ryan Sturck is significantly better than the likes of Charlie, you know, Lakin and those ones. Amari Miller, again, good player. I actually grew up with Amari. He's from the same area as me. Seen what I can do. Really good player. Excited about him for what's to come. And then you've got, you know, the likes of Simmons on the fringes and whatnot that I think they'll have something to prove next season. So, yeah, as I say, listen, we lost the 2 games, got battered both times, really. But, yeah, as I say, it's the main thing is we're up.
Yeah, I think it's like you say, you know, it's 17 points or whatever it was he'd taken from his first lot of games. And I think it is very much almost like a mini a mini season from when Bowyer came in, wasn't it? You looked at the fixtures that everyone had, and you kind of put what Karanka had done to bed. Like you say, Norwich on another day, we could have took something from that. We had a few games where we looked, a few games where we probably should have put our foot on the gas under Karanka a bit more and gone and nicked the game. Wickham away, we done enough to get the win. We made enough chances, but he didn't want to make the changes in the last 10, 15 minutes. Games at home that we lost that we shouldn't have. You should never be losing at home to Luton. No offence to Luton, they've got some hard workers in the side, but you should never be losing games like that. But then when Bowyer's come in, he's really kind of set his stall out from the off, told the players what he expects of them, and the difference was night and day, wasn't it? He was absolutely robbed for manager of the month for April as well.
Yeah,
absolutely robbed. I mean, considering you look at the likes of Daniel Farker for Norwich, who I don't think has won a manager of the month this year. And people say, oh, it's because it's expected. Norwich are meant to be winning every game, so he can't win it. We're not expected to take 7 points from Brentford, Reading, Swansea and Watford. We weren't expected to be safe with 2 games left of a season and go unbeaten for a whole month, conceding 2 goals, and yet then you go and give it to Bournemouth. And was it Jonathan Woodgate got it?
Yeah, of a Premier League squad.
Yeah, the Premier League squad beating the likes of Coventry, and you go, it's what Bowyer's done has been incredible. So I don't think these last two games should be looked at with any sort of, apart from, like Elliot says, apart from to look at the ideas for pre-season and next season, you shouldn't really look at them too much at all. But I mean, he's Bowyer's said almost as such, he only thinks there's 1 or 2 additions needed in the summer. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Elliot? How many players do you want to see through the door? What areas do you think we need to strengthen?
Oh, that's a good question, mate. I don't know. We were discussing it when we briefly beforehand, and I think obviously we look okay in the goalkeeping department, and I think he'll probably be looking at the young lads sort of contract wise, whether he wants to keep them on now or let one of them go. Kind of probably sort of coming to the conclusion that maybe Truman might be the one that's let go or not given a new contract. I think defensively we definitely need additions. I think I would say that George Friend probably hasn't got the legs next season to carry on as backup. I just think we probably need another central defender. I think we need a left back or a left wing back, depending on sort of style of football he wants to play next season. And going through it throughout the cycle. I think the most important position I think we need to rectify next season is the forward position. Well, we've scored 36 goals or something like that. I think it's one of the lowest goal tallies that we've recorded in a long time. And I think we just need someone that's like Kane said before we came on, someone that's mobile, someone that's a bit more clinical. I don't think we've got to spend a huge amount of money. We've just got to do the right scouting and get them in. I'm not convinced by Cosgrove. I don't think Bowyer's convinced by him, unfortunately. And we'll get on to Lecca, I suppose, later on. But definitely up front, we need a clinical striker.
It's interesting you mentioned defensively as well, because we said on previous podcasts at the start of this season that we needed to strengthen defensively, and all Karanka ended up doing was bringing in Friend from Middlesbrough. Don't get me wrong, he's been a good addition. He does bring that experience and that know-how, and he's captain of Middlesbrough for a long time. And he's a leader. That's quite obvious. But like you say, he's going to be. Well, he's in his twilight years already, isn't he? Next season, he's not going to be not going to be playing 46 games and nor anywhere near that, is he? So you look at the depth. Clark Salter's inevitably going to go back to Chelsea, and you're going to need some depth in there, and again, probably a bit more experience as well. I mean, one position I do think we need to strengthen as well, and I'm sure you guys probably agree, is I think we need an out-and-out challenger for that right-back position as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Collan is. I think Collan's got it quite easy there. Don't get me wrong, I think Collan's a good player, but there's never really any pressure on him to really perform week in, week out. And if you put that put that on him, you're going to get the best out of him, I'd have thought. But Kane, what are your thoughts? Where do you think we need to look at for the summer?
Yeah, I think, like obviously with George Friend's almost going to be I think we've seen the best of George Friend this season when he's actually played left back. I think, we played Bristol City away. I think Dean scored. He played left back. We were really good that day. And I think at a couple of occasions he's played left back. I preferred him there. But again, he's not getting any younger. Is he 35 or something now? Something like that.
Mm.
He's more going to be a cheerleader any next season. What was that? I didn't get the bringing Adam Clayton into the begin with. It turned out to be, I don't know what Adam Clayton's doing. I haven't heard anything off him, seen any pictures of him or anything recently. Again, 10 grand a week, probably 2-year deal, just shit business basically. But yeah, in terms of, I think George Friend will be a cheerleader next season. Just good to have around the dressing room, and there's no harm in him being around. I think he's a good player to have in the pack. But like Elliot said, I think we need a forward, don't we? Shame we didn't get Nisbet in January. Cosgrove, like Bowyer said, didn't really get the logic of why he was brought in the first place, whether it's a long-term thing for Djukovic, like for like. But yeah, I almost think that Cosgrove's probably got to go out on loan. I know we haven't seen the best, but let's see what pre-season brings. But I haven't seen anything since he's come in. I know he's had 2 games, probably less than 300 minutes of football since he's come in, but I haven't seen one thing to suggest that he's going to be up to scratch for what we need next season. A mobile striker. We say it every transfer window. Where's our Clayton Donaldson coming from? No, he couldn't finish the best, but he put himself about, run the channels. Now we spoke about we're not going to have millions to spend, are we? So Rotherham have just gone down. Someone like Freddie Ladapo, and like you say, we need to get the scouting right, but. When we're outsourcing it anyway, what chance are we giving ourselves? So, striker needed. Probably need, Raheem Harper's going back. That leaves us with Gardner, who's had a great season. Sunjic, who can be a bit of a headless chicken sometimes. But, again, does run all day for you, Sunjic. But I think, again, we probably need another centre midfielder for me. And let's see what happens with Sanchez and, Halilovic, who... There's question marks, and Bella hasn't featured really, has he, the last 4 or 5 games? So let's see what happens with those in the summer as well.
I think I definitely think looking at these last 2 games, do you guys feel like Lee Bowyer was maybe trying to make a point to the board, to say, look, I need considerable strengthening throughout the whole squad here. I need help. I mean, I know Kieran mentioned that. He said that he only wants to tweak the squads, but I think he's just trying to be kind to the squad of players that he's got at the moment, and the job that they've done for him sort of towards the end of this season. But I think behind closed doors, those 2 performances, he's kind of just said, look, we need a lot of change here. We need a rebuild basically. It's frustrating because we seem to go for a rebuild every summer, don't we? We'll need one.
It is interesting to think that. When he first came in, and there was a lot of talk about what he was going to do is he going to tweak things? Is he going to get us playing a different style of football with only, what did he have, like 12 games, whatever it was? And people said, you had a certain way of playing when you was at Charlton. And he did say at the time, didn't he? Look, I'm going to make do with what I've got. I'm going to play to the strengths of what I've got in this squad. But come the summer, I'm going to implement my changes. He didn't play a rigid 4-4-2 with Charlton. He didn't play direct football. So I think there is going to be wholesale changes. And I think, yesterday and last week against Cardiff were more of getting a feel for who we're going to offer a new deal to, who can go out, who's worth of going out on loan, who's worth just saying, you're not good enough, you can go. And who are we going to keep in the squad for the depth? Because if you can find someone like we touched on, Amari Miller, a Ryan Stirk, who can come in and can do a job. You're not going to see them week in, week out, but if push comes to shove, they can fill in and not look out of place. Then all of a sudden that's one position ticked off the list of what's needed in the summer. You don't need wholesale changes of 17, 18 signings again. And can you get the best out of who came in last summer? Like a San Jose. Has he got another season in his legs if you play him in the right way? You get him playing to what you need him to do rather than just leaving him to look a bit lost at times like he was under Karanka in a sense.
I think, you mentioned San Jose. We saw the worst of him under Karanka, and I think part of the reason we got picked up 17 points is because there was just that release, wasn't there, in the squad when Karanka went. They didn't want him there. They didn't want to play for him. They were frustrated with his methods, or his lack of methods, to be honest. And I think even San Jose looked good the other day when he came on against Derby. They actually dominated them in the second half. And like you say, Kieran, maybe we'll see a different San Jose next season. Someone that is actually confident under Bowyer. And I think that comes down for a lot of players, doesn't it? Hopefully we'll see a lot of these players with more confidence next season. Hopefully a few of them look like brand new players.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%. I think, like you said as well, Kieran, if we can get one or two that can fill in, like a Ryan Sturr that can do a job, and Amari Miller from the wing or whatever position we play in, that probably saves us another 10, 15 grand on wages elsewhere. Then we can prioritise, an extra 10 grand on a better forward coming in rather than, getting a couple of people just to fill the spots basically. So yeah, I agree with that, and I think San Jose, like you said, when he first signed, we'll be thinking, Bilbao legend, unreal pedigree, played for Spain. We're rubbing our hands together, but yeah, I mean, Karanka he's like a football terrorist at the end of the day, wasn't he? He was sucked the life out of us, man, that guy. But like, he could make anyone look, drain the confidence out of anyone by the way we played. So yeah, if you're going to get anything from Bowyer as a manager, I think it is confidence, like you said, Elliot. So yeah, hopefully have a good pre-season, and I'd like to see more of him next season, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I think there's a lot of value for money in the teams that have just gone down as well, player-wise. You look at, like you mentioned, the Dapo from Rotherham. You look at some of the players who are at Wickham. I know they're not great world beers, but there's a couple of there's one or two players in each and every one of those squads that you could look at, could probably pick up relatively cheap and would do a job. I like Onyedinma Dinma from Wickham. He's a live wire. I like him. I remember he played didn't he score? He scored an absolute belter against us when he played for Millwall a few seasons back, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
I like the look of him. And you're talking wages, but Sheffield Wednesday never really got the best out of Jordan Rhodes up top, did they? And players like that, there is good players in the teams that have gone down.
Yeah, like Jordan Rhodes they paid 10 million for him 3 or 4 years ago. Jordan Rhodes guarantee you goals in the Championship, but hasn't kicked on like it's a wheel. But Wednesday, to be fair to Wednesday, obviously they've been deducted points. They would have been safe if they didn't have that deduction. But yeah, as I say, you look, the likes of, we spoke about Barry Bannon earlier. Who, obviously, we don't like him. We hate that bloke, but good player. You'd think that someone will pick him up in the Championship. Adam Reach, players like that will do a job. Josh Windass is okay. I probably wouldn't want Josh Windass, but they're all Championship players, aren't they? So, there's a couple of things there, and I think the team's going up as well. So you look at Norwich, who hasn't been getting a game for Norwich. You've got Jordan Hugel, who probably won't get a game next season. Well, they're sending him out on loan. Kieran Dowell, they'll probably send him out on loan again. And then you've got Watford going up. Is Troy Deeney going to have a season in the Premier League? Just get yourself ready for those rumours anyway for the next 3 months that Troy Deeney's coming to the Blues. Happens every year now. So, yeah, who goes up from the playoffs as well? I mean, it's going to be interesting, isn't it?
I've seen that Norwich have released Vrancic and Teti, haven't they, from midfield? Not that Vrancic always does a number on us whenever he plays us. So I think he's quite a decent midfielder, but whether or not, we'd be on his radar as a club he'd be willing to join is beyond me anyway. But like you say, these going up and down, there's players on the fringes in the sides going up who are going to be looking for a move, and Championship's the best bet, isn't it, realistically, especially for a player like you say, like a Jordan Hugel. He's not going to get a Premier League move, so his next best bet is Championship loan, you'd have thought. But like you say, we're inevitably going to be linked to Troy Deener.
Yeah, every season.
Yeah, he's, even though every transfer window we say he's past his best now, and he's just a walking injury at this point. But I mean, of the players,
I wouldn't take him. I wouldn't take Deeney though.
Of the players that you've seen, then Elliot, who came into the side in the past few weeks, who do you think we're willing to let go in the summer, or who would you want to let go in the summer?
Well, we spoke about it before, didn't we? And I think goalkeeper-wise, I think Truman's not done himself a lot of justice, has he, in his performance yesterday? I just don't see a future for him at the club. I think he needs to go down a few divisions and work his way out, find himself. And I don't think he's right for the Championship. I think Cogley, he doesn't ever really put a foot wrong. I feel for him, but I just don't think again. He was at one of my local clubs on loan. I don't know if it was last season 4, Crawley, and he didn't do a great deal there. He was in and out of the side. I think another player needs to drop down a few levels and find himself and rediscover, I don't know, his career, I suppose. Because I don't think he's Championship level. And I think, like we were saying earlier with Sturk, and Miller would definitely benefit from a loan. Next season. Gordon again, definitely, would benefit from a loan. Sturk, I think it might be worth keeping him in and around the squad next season. Like I say, if we can save some wages, like Kane said, and have him in and around. If we've got a confident squad next season, hopefully we can, get a couple of these youngsters in here and there, and it'll benefit them. Not what we've seen in the last 2 games where you're chucking in 7 or 8 of them. You need experience next to them as well to help them, which we haven't seen in the last 2 games. But we understand the process, and he wants to. He needs to know where he's going this summer. So, and then I suppose in terms of Lecco, I've seen a few people on Twitter that are saying, maybe we should loan him out. I know we've just spent £1 million on him, but I don't know whether he's up to this level right now.
He seems to be one of those players who there was when he first went through at West Brom. I remember hype. It's not like he's a Jude Bellingham level player, that's hype, isn't it? But there was people were talking about him, weren't they? As he could be one of the next big things. And even when we signed him, you say £1 million could be a steal, but it just never really seems to have materialised, does it? And you look at him last season for Charlton when he was on loan there before he got injured, and there was signs of a decent player, but we just never seem to have seen it in his season here so far.
Yeah, it was like you say, there was a bit of hype around. I think he was a Golden Boy nominee or one of those. I think he was when he was a teenager. But when we, I think it was us on Wednesday, and we were in for him. £1 million. It thought to myself, it's a good bit of business. That 21, 22. I've never known a player like Lecco, honestly. Can skin 3 men in the corner flag and do something unbelievable. Then spray it out of play from 30 yards. Like he's frustrating beyond belief, isn't he? I can't understand his logic sometimes. Just doing it simple, and I think that if anyone could probably teach him that side of the game, it's probably Bowyer. But he just needs to sharpen up. I think pre-season is going to be massive for Lecco, and if he doesn't cut it next season, where do we go? Where does he go from there? Really, he ain't going to get. If he doesn't cut it next season, he won't get another Championship move. So he's got to save his career next season. I think Lecco. Otherwise, he'll find himself in League One. I think.
So
it's like you say, you watch him sometimes, and it's like he doesn't think, does he? When he's got the ball, he just completely shuts off, and it's like a kid on the playground almost, isn't it? Like you say, sometimes he gets the ball and he goes past 3-4 men, and you go, it's incredible. And then next thing you know, he shanks you out of play, and you go all that for nothing. And like you say, it's just frustrating. And we've seen players like that, the Blues, time and time again. And every time we tell ourselves that this player is going to be different, It never turns out to be the case. I just hope that in, like you say, in pre-season, he can go away now and get his head right. 'Cause like you say, he's not going to get another championship move if he doesn't sort himself out, because no one will take the chance. We're not going to want to lose money on him either.
Like you say, it's one of them where, you know, if we ended up shipping him out, it'd probably turn into a world beater then. I think the same happened with, is it Jeremy Boga went to Sampdoria or one of them in Italy and has been unreal the last 2 seasons, being linked with Juventus and stupid stuff like that. So he was another one, but Boga just never had that end product, could beat a man, always bit of pace, cutting inside and whatnot, but never did enough, I didn't think. And then went on to better things. Like, there's always that thing with the Blues where there'll probably be a world beater elsewhere. You look at Lloyd Dyer, who couldn't put a foot wrong for Burton when he left us. It's like, it's just that's the only happens to us. But yeah, Lecco, we'll see what happens with Lecco. I think the big question for us this summer is, can we do the best bit of business we can do? I think is nailing down and keeping Halilovic.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, like you mentioned, Boga. I remember he was during the Sancho saga with United last summer. They was on about Boga going to Dortmund if Sancho moved on.
Yeah.
And you're talking 30, 40 million. No, I never saw a 30, 40 million player half the time. The only thing I can remember for him was that goal against Sheffield United.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what about for you then, Kane? Who do you want to see kept and moved on in the summer from the lads that have come in the last few weeks?
I agree with what Elliot said. I think Truman's, I think he's too lightweight. You know, he just hasn't got the physique and the stature to, you know, he's not unreal. His reflexes aren't unreal. And if you are that small, sometimes your skills and your attributes can compensate for being that height, but it just doesn't look, he's not fit to be a goalkeeper, especially at championship level. And he didn't do very well at Wimbledon, did he, when he was on loan there early this season? So Truman's got to go. I think we should be shipping out Preto as well. Save on wages. There's no point having him around anymore. Try and get him off back to Spain or something, one of those clubs. And give Jaycock, I'd give him the number 2 now. I think he's warranted that. You know, he's capable keeper. He reminds me a little bit of when Butland Kirk first came on the scene. You know, in the England youth setup, obviously got pedigree, highly rated, come through the ranks. Give him the number 2. I think now. Don't see any. We know he could be comfortably come in and do a job. So yeah, no harm putting him up. Cogley, again, like you say, he never puts a foot wrong, Cogley, but it's a difficult one where is Cogley ever going to improve Blues as a team, or is he going to improve our defence? I just don't think it'd be a good thing to extend his deal any longer, to be honest. Part ways with him, let him crack on. He's at the stage in his career now where he needs to be playing regularly, needs to be playing every week, essentially. And we're not going to give him that anymore. So Cogley, I think, has got to go. Rico Gordon, I'd probably give him a season out on loan. I think he come on, didn't he, against Cardiff and did all right for 20 minutes, I thought. Looked capable. Give him a loan. Amari Miller, difficult with Amari. I think I'd probably benefit from a loan move, I think. But like you say, Sturk's the one out of the pack that I think he's probably worthy of having around the squad next season. I'm just a bit concerned with what's going to happen with Bella and Sanchez as well, to be honest. I think Bella hasn't been included a lot recently, and I can't understand why. Because every time I watch Bella, he's direct, cutting inside, can go back on his left foot, decent on set pieces. We've got Djukovic putting balls in the box. There's no better man to do it than Jerry Bella, I don't think. So I can't see why. We need to. I think we should be doing everything we can to make sure he's playing on the wing. But again, we don't know what formation he's going to go with next season, and what he's going to put in. So yeah, let's see what happens there. But I think Halilovic is the big one. We need to, like you say, when we played Halilovic on the right, he's got the work ethic. He's decent defensively as well. Left mid, he played really well against Derby from left midfield. You can play him in behind the striker. You can even play him in centre mid. Halilovic is that good. But yeah, I think he commented on Ivan Sanchez's Instagram post yesterday and put, "I'm going to miss you, brother," or something. So I know we had that Croatian tabloid or podcast that said, yeah, they've extended his contract, but yeah, we need to see how that pans out because, yeah, he'll go on to have a good career, Lilivic, but I think that for his own best interests, I think he should stay for at least another season, to be honest.
That's the thing we were saying just before we came on air is that on his day, he's head and shoulders the best player on the pitch whenever he plays for us, isn't he? You know, and that's from not just for us, from realistically from both teams. He's streets ahead in terms of pure ability and you know how good he is in tight spaces, and he just brings something completely different to everyone else out there, doesn't he? So you'd like to think we'd move heaven and earth to get him at least another season at us. And then, do you know what? At the end of the day, if then he signs a 1-year deal, and if he's got something better out there, then fair enough. We're not naive enough as Blues fans to think that these players stay around forever. They never do. You know, you look at Damari Gray, Nathan Redmond, the players like that. They always move on, and you know, if they're good enough, then you allow it, don't you? But be interesting to see what happens with him, I think.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because, you know, I know Dong wanted this, you know, at that time where we only wanted to sign players with high revalue potential, and, you know, Halilovic is 24. Get a proper pre-season behind him. He's obviously got pedigree already. You know, if he has another good season in the Championship, Blues have a good season. If we manage to get him for a 2-3 year deal, God knows what he'd be worth, genuinely. Because I think Halilovic is good enough to play in the Premier League. He's far too good for the Championship, and he's only half fit. And he's probably, to be fair, you look at Halilovic, I think he could do with a stone off, to be honest. I think he could genuinely do with a stone off. He always looks a little bit. He can move, doesn't he? His acceleration's good. He can beat 2-3 defenders, but I think with a good pre-season underneath him, yeah, I'd love for us. I think we deserve to see him in person, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping we keep him. I think it'll be the best bit of business we do this summer.
Yeah,
if we keep hold of him and give him a good contract. I'd certainly rather give him a contract than continue to pay 26 grand a week to San Jose. Who, like we're saying, we hope he's going to be better next season, but you know that money could definitely be better spent elsewhere, I think, and hopefully we can keep hold of Sanchez as well. We've got 2 useful players there. If we can just get a little bit more. Well, I'd like to think that we'll do a lot of our shopping in the Championship next year, and this summer, and there's going to be plenty of players on frees that are going to be useful to us. So yeah, I don't need to be looking in Spain, second division, and God knows where else. You know, get rid of these two guys that are playing Championship manager out there, and let's get some proper scouting going on.
You say these players we signed from the Spanish second division and what have you never work out. Like Villalba didn't want to be here, and that was obvious from day one. Sanchez is a fantastic player. Realistically, does he want to be here? He could have had he could have stayed at Elche and signed a new deal and played La Liga football last season. So you'd imagine we'd offered a bit more money, and obviously this misconception that we was going to be Premier League or fighting for the playoffs, when in reality we're down the other end of the table again. So is he thinking that the grass is greener elsewhere? If so, then fair enough. Look, you can't don't keep a player that's unhappy. But like you say, you look at the teams in mid-table in the Championship who shouldn't. Luton should be nowhere near it. I know we touched on it earlier. Luton, they've gone above and beyond what they should be achieving. But you look at Dewsbury Hall in midfield for Luton. He'd do a job for us. 100% do a job for us. Would he be expensive? You wouldn't have thought so from Luton, but again, other clubs would be looking at him now.
Yeah, he's not Luton's player, is he? He's Leicester's, and
is he only on loan there? Then that's
yeah. As far as I could tell, he's going to be in and around their first team next season. I mean, in the squad anyway. Yeah, so he's too good. He's man of the match every other week. So he's the reason Luton are in mid-table. You know,
well, that's the thing. But you look at these teams at Preston, they've gone on a bit of a stinker this season, you know. But is there players there that we could take and look at? You know, are they going to come next season with a pre-season under Bowyer and the right signings, are we going to be any worse off than Preston on paper next season? Theoretically, you'd like to think not. So you've got to target some players from the clubs in and around us, haven't you?
Yeah, I'd just like I say, I don't think that we can go too wrong if we go for the tried and tested method in the summer rather than the untested. If we can get some, I don't, and I'm not saying about going out and getting a 33-year-old, George Friend replica again. I mean, going out and getting, a player that's out of contract, that's played the Championship, knows what it's all about, useful players. That's all I want to see. I think, we've got a good manager now, and I think coach, they're going to get the right coaching next season. So I think, we can do things next year. I'm not saying top 6, but I think we could be in and around the top half, definitely mid-table. So, just got to get the recruitment right. I don't want to see any more players coming in from the second division in Spain. Yes, Sanchez has been quite good. I don't think he's a world beater. If you look at his output, it's not incredible. I think he scored what? One goal, and probably maybe a handful of assists.
Good goal.
That was a good goal. Yeah, that was the best goal of the season. But
goal of the season for me.
Yeah, 100%.
It was a goal. It was a goal of the season. But I tell you what, I liked Delivich's against QPR.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he had what? I know I'm digressing now, but he had like 3 defenders around him in front of him. He had like the ball was behind him, 0 backlift, and he managed to put that in the far corner. It was unreal.
Yeah,
quality finish. I mean, imagine if we were in the ground for that. Oh. Anyway, yeah. So I think, we've got to sort that. This is the most crucial thing I think this summer. Get Dong out, and let's get the recruitment right, and sort out the women's side as well. Well, we won't go into that. We'll be here all night.
Yeah. Jeez, I think, like you said, we want to try and test his shot. I know that there's 2 strikers out of contracts in the Championship. Then we wouldn't. I mean, Britta Sambalonga's leaving at the end of the season, 28. We'd love Britta Sambalonga, wouldn't we? But I've seen a few
scoring against us.
Yes, just to stop him scoring. Yeah, but I think with him, we know what we're going to get. We'd get 15 goals out of Sambalonga. With Djukovic up top with him. I think. Yeah, listen, you got to give him 25, 30 grand a week, can't you, at the end of the day? I don't think we would be in a position to pay that. But, yeah, any side, I think, Sambalonga will probably end up at a QPR or something, nice London move for him, one of those. But there's another one who else is out of contract. I think we'll end up going for, because that Chuck Saniki at Charlton who's out of contract, who I think he's got 14 this season. And I think Bowyer said about him that, look, on his day, he's a world beater, Aniki. Obviously, look, he's had 1 season at Charlton Championship. I think we played him at St Andrews when Djukovic scored last kick for us, and he was a serious handful up front for them that day. Wouldn't mind seeing him, because I've got something to prove. Scored quite a few in League One this season. Bowyer knows him. Cheap bit of business. I think that would be sensible. There's that JJ who's out of contract at Bristol City. Are we going to get him? Probably not. But again, there's big names that we should really be throwing our name in the hat, I think.
Well, you'd think with Charlton missing out on the playoffs today as well now, Bowyer will go back to them for 1 or 2 familiar faces. I mean, the player I've always liked the look of at Charlton is Doherty.
Yeah,
He went to Stoke, didn't he?
Yeah, he went to Stoke.
Forget that then. I'm off it today. I'm going. See you later.
I thought that though, because I did it the other week. I said about Alfie Doherty, whatever his name is. I said, he's a good player. Where is he? We'll have him. And then I didn't realise he went to Stoke in the summer. Had no idea about it, to be fair. But yeah,
I genuinely thought he was still at Charlton.
Yeah. Does that force the Kasky as well that people rate at Charlton?
I mean, their lineup today, you had Alex Gilbert, Connor Washington, Ben Watson in midfield, Albie Morgan, centre mid, Ryan Innes at centre back, Chuck Saniki came on as a sub, Andrew Shinnie's there. Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Chris Gunter on the bench.
We were linked with him at one point.
Yeah.
Well, was we not when he was a free contract? Did he not go to Charlton in the summer as a free contract?
I think he did, yeah.
Who's that?
Gunter.
Oh, yeah, he did, yeah. I think he was on a free, but yeah.
Over the hill now, you'd think.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you wouldn't have thought Reading had. I wouldn't have thought Reading would have let him go. Was it Reading he was at the time? Most recently, from what I can remember, I'm probably wrong with that as well.
No, you are right with that one. They've got that.
Right.
They've got that Andy Yeadon, though, haven't they? They bought from Barnsley, who looks tidy.
Yeah, like Reading, they've got a brilliant. Obviously, got some good kids coming through there and good recruitment going on there. Like
Really good recruitment, yeah.
Yeah, that Elise. I don't think they'll keep hold of that Elise. To be fair, I think he'll be gone.
Not if he's got an £8 million release clause as well.
Is that it?
Really?
Apparently an £8 million release clause. Yeah.
No.
But Reading fans said he's worth more than Jude, so it's all right.
Nah, it'd be at Crystal Palace next year.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, tell you what though, Elise and Eze for Palace, lively.
Yeah, I know. I always look at Palace and I think, oh, they're just such an average team, aren't they? Like always mid-table, really boring. And then you think if they were in the Championship, they'd absolutely rip it apart, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would.
They'd have double figures against us this season.
It's frightening. But
it all comes down to what happens behind the scenes for us, doesn't it? But what's going to happen? I think Dong has to go in the summer, and I think Bowyer wasn't his appointment in the first place, and I think there's a quote that he expected us to lose 3-0. I think it was our first game. There's a quote he apparently made against Reading before we beat them. Hated playing 4-4-2. We had our best results of the season when we just stripped it back to basics, didn't we? So, yeah, I think if Dong goes in the summer, which I know Zhao's been over, who's obviously Dong's boss, he's been calling the shots and having the final say on things recently, I believe. So, yeah, hopefully that's a sign of what they know that he ain't a capable leader. And obviously we're not going to come onto the women's side yet, but the women's side were playing Champions League football 3 years ago, and now they're lucky to have stayed in the top division. So from top to bottom, the club it does stink, doesn't it? So until Dom goes, which I think he will go in the next month or so, I really do.
Fingers crossed.
I think he'll go. I mean, like you said, I think you said it earlier, Kieran, who, having that kind of director of football, someone that knows the game. I think Reading did it. They've got that Mark Bowen who managed them, who's kind of overseeing stuff. Someone like that knows the club, can work well with Bowyer and not just be, a yes man that's just gonna, meet all these, nobodies in football, like you said, people meeting, Dong meeting with random people, and it's like meeting consultative people just for the sake of it and whatnot. I think once we've got a proper football man in above Dong and above Lee Bowyer, it'll only get better for us, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Now is everyone wants to run a football club and they do make money from it, so they run it as a business. But it's much more than that, isn't it? And these clubs that, especially the ones in your major cities, we carry the name of the second city. It means something to a lot of people, and they're killing it ultimately. And you see these, unfortunately, the bad, the badly done banner yesterday and stuff. These people have got the best interests of the club at heart, and unfortunately, it's gone a bit awry. But there's got to be more of that, and people have got to, if that's what it comes to force these players, there's got to be more protests and people speaking up, because enough's enough, really. They have killed the club. And like you say, you look at the women's side. A few years back, the women's side were in FA Cup finals. They were playing Champions League football. They actually are winning things. And the women's side were streets ahead of the men's in terms of ability. And now you look at the videos and they're having to do, physio on a bench in a porter cabin. And it's just embarrassing how bad the club's got in general over the past few years. And, I think enough's enough now in terms of Dom.
I think if if Man United have shown us, like the owners can say no. We can do something, and I'm not saying we should go to those lengths, but if we keep on at it, and when we're back in the ground, they need to sort themselves out. I don't think there's ever been a question mark over their
funding of the club, they keep us running. They're running us at a loss. It's not a business to them. They're just, they're floating a company on the stock exchange and they're doing what they're doing or whatever they're doing. But, but something needs to change.
Making men need to change at this club so that we don't end up, we're going to end up in League One, aren't we? Eventually, we keep circling the plug hole. So, something's got to change.
Yeah, I think with the banner yesterday and that, they made a mistake with that. I think they will come out and apologise for it. It's a shame it's a bit distasteful, and you can't do, it's 2021. You can't do stuff like that. It's never been acceptable anyway. But I don't think they intended to be racist. I think it was just a bit cheap and didn't think it through really. I think that they'll come out and apologise for that, and they should. But in terms of the messaging at the moment, I think it's obviously got to Dong. Look, the bloke's deleted his Twitter. He's seen the banner. It's obviously got to him. He knows that everyone's turned against him. And you look in the summer, we thought he looks like he's turned the page a little bit. He's been a lot more public with coming out, replying to JK with weird gifs and stuff. It was a bit more out there. I know obviously offered that fan out for a fight last season, which was just unreal. But you can tell that the message has got to him. I'm not sure if it's got to China, which is what it's got to take to get him out, I think. And I don't know how, obviously Daniel Ivory managed to do it for years, got the messaging out to Panu and this and that. He's obviously not doing that stuff anymore. And because it's a monopoly with Blues now, who owns us, who's the senior figures, we don't really know. I don't think we'll ever know the full extent of what's going on. But yeah, as I say, I think the messages get to Dong. I think he will go in the summer. And it'll only get better from there. But look, it only takes, even the ownership on the stock exchange and whatnot, it only takes one of those little companies that are involved to pull the plug. All of a sudden, we're administration, we're the next Bolton, next Bury. And there's every chance that can happen when you run a business that way. And it shouldn't be run that way. And, the fans, we've got a lot of wealthy fans and a lot of, well-known fans, businessmen that could as a fan base, could we look at, fan ownership and doing that? But because of the way it's owned, it's just impossible to get us off the stock exchange. I think I read a thing that apparently that on the stock exchange, I think Blues are worth something like 300 million or something on the stock exchange. To buy the shares outright, that's what you have to pay for it. So that's not going to happen. So the only way effectively to buy Blues was if we went into administration and we bought it that way. We don't want to go into administration. We don't have another points deduction. But I think realistically is the only way that we get sold, which is the worst. It's the worst way possible as well, isn't it?
You look at Wigan as the most recent example, and they've gone a whole season and still not had a takeover go through yet, have they? I think they're nearly done, but they're stayed up with 2 games left in League One. You look at them last season in the Championship. I know it weren't until the points deduction and things went.
They were mid-table.
But they towards the end of the season they're as good as anyone in the league, weren't they? So it is administration's a slippery slope, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether you get bought out from there or not. It can kill the club for years in the future, even after the takeover, because you got to build your foundations from scratch again effectively as well, haven't you? So it's like you say, what's the best way out of it for us realistically?
Yeah, someone said that, I think Twitter the other week, someone was talking about what's the best outcome for us, because we're not going to get sold realistically unless we do go to administration further down the line. But the best outcome for us is, look, Don goes, someone a bit more competent comes in. To be honest, even though the last, when we were under Carson Young and before TTA, we had was it Panos Pavlakis? Is it Panos? He got the club, didn't he, Panos? And he's always slagging TTA off on Twitter and stuff. Always has something to say. But someone that got the club a little bit, steadied the ship, knew the books inside out. But the problem is with Dong is he doesn't really get based and judged on our performances on the pitch. It wouldn't matter if we got relegated, I don't think. It wouldn't affect him as long as he's technically doing his job off the pitch and reducing the loss. I think we recorded 18 million losses this season, which is reduced year on year. We wouldn't have had that without Bellingham and whatnot. And if we did have fans in the stadium, the gates, we'd have probably done 10 million losses, something like that across the year, which that's a lot better than a lot of clubs in this division. But that's what Dong's based on. But I think now, because he's had, because he's, we've had to let go of Karanka, pay a 3-year contract off. What's that, 2 million quid, something like that, probably more. He is sucking funds from their pockets, and I think they've realised that. So, yeah, as I say, hopefully they've realised that they need a proper, knowledgeable decision maker that can take us forward. So, yeah, onwards and upwards. But I think we should know really within the next month whether he's gonna do one or what.
Yeah, I think if he is going at the end of this season, and we're looking ahead to next season, I think realistically, the next week or next couple of weeks are going to be when you hear something, I suppose, and obviously fingers crossed. Like we say, we need someone who understands first and foremost football in general, but then ideally someone who's, if they've got prior involvement with the club before, or someone who understands the fan base and knows what's expected. And you're looking upwards all of a sudden, aren't you? Rather than, like you say, at the minute with Dong, you never know what's going to go to pot next. I mean, you read even about the whole story with the Karanka sacking and stuff, and you read the stories about how apparently he threw a birthday party at the training ground, and you just go, what on earth is going on? Karanka's just been sacked, and he's got to sit and celebrate Dong's birthday with a squad of players that didn't like him, realistically, and you just go, fucking hell. It's just... We are a laughing stock. We're an absolute laughing stock. Now he's offering fans out for fights, like you say, and
Didn't have any faves, does he?
No, I mean, I'll give up with it all, to be honest.
What would you deem a successful season in the next year? What's successful in your eyes?
I'll be happy with mid-table next season, personally. I'll be happy with a season of not looking over our shoulder at what other teams are doing below us. Pick up enough points early on to not have to worry about the last 5-10 games.
Yeah.
And steady the ship. Steady the ship. Because for too long, like Elliot says, we've circled the plug hole and we've flirted with relegation. And you can't keep doing it. It will bite you on the arse eventually. It always does. You look at people used to say them lot down the road with Villa were too big for relegation. They flirted with it for years. It got them. It will get you eventually. Your luck runs out.
As soon as they let Benteke go, wasn't it? As soon as Benteke went, that was it. They went straight down. But I think, like you say, mid-table next season is what we should be aiming for. And if we can aim, I think we should be aiming for 50 points by February. If we can aim for 50 points by February, end of Feb, and then go from there, you never know, do you? Last 3 months of the season, you just don't know. But I mean, that's probably a little bit. Probably not going to happen. 50 points by February, not with us. But
yeah, look at it though. Like Reading were favourites to get relegated this season with the bookies, and they picked up. So they went on a run at the start of the season. They picked up that many points. They weren't great after the turn of the year. They tailed off a bit, but they still only just finished outside the playoffs. Yeah, because of that the sheer amount of points they picked up early doors. So you notch 1 or 2 wins early on in the season and gather a bit of confidence. You never know what can happen. I'm not saying now we can challenge for the playoffs, but you just never know. You get the right players in, you get the right mentality into that squad. They all understand what's expected of them, the tactics and so on, and just see where it takes you.
Yeah, I know it's not exciting to talk about mid-table, but we shouldn't be any worse off than a Millwall or a Luton. No. I know Barnsley have got they've got a good ethos in there now, and it's working for them, and they're doing very well. They've got a good coach, and we've got a good manager now. I really rate Bowyer. I hate to say it, but maybe we should have got him last summer. He was definitely an option. But don't get me wrong, when we got Karanka, we were all pleased with it, and we weren't to know that it was going to go so badly, and it just wasn't going to work. But yeah, Bowyer, from what I've seen in the 10 games, well, the 8 games, I'm going to quickly forget about the last 2 games, but he's tactically astute. He's switched on. He's switched on. He matches sides. He nullifies sides that are better than us. He can change tactics at half time. How often did we see Karanka? We were terrible in the first half. And he'd think, "Oh, give it another 20 minutes," and then he wouldn't make a substitution. And you think,
yeah,
you need to do something positive here. But Bowyer does. He's a positive manager. I like it. I like everything about him. And I just think in the summer, I don't even necessarily think we need to bring someone in above him in Dong's position that really knows what they're doing. Well, obviously it would help, but just someone that's going to support Bowyer and say, "Look, what do you want to do? What do you want to do about recruitment? We'll support you." Give him the reins. Let him do his thing, rather than someone over his shoulder going, "Well, this is our list of targets. This is who I want." We just want Bowyer to be able to do his job next year. I think that's what every sport wants, don't they?
I get it to a certain degree as well. I know that a lot of managers nowadays, they work with people for their, they give a list of targets and you say, "Right, I want X, Y, and Z," and you kind of meet in the middle with, that's the way a lot of clubs run. Unless you're a Guardiola or a Klopp who demands that from. But at the same time, but what you're saying is, for example, with Dong, you could give Dong. They say Karanka had a say in his players. Did he realistically though? I don't think, apart from Clayton and George Friend, I don't know if Karanka would have wanted the players. Why is Karanka looking at a Cosgrove in January who's a Jukovic replacement when he didn't want Jukovic, for example?
Listen, I think Clayton and Friend were Karanka's signings. It was getting, he's worked with them before and he wanted that experience in the changing rooms and he wanted that backup. But it's all well and good having a director of football that knows what they're doing. Yeah, hand them the recruitment. This is our recruitment strategy. Here's our director of football. They can deal with it. Let Bowyer do his job, but we don't have that, unfortunately. Dong needs to go, and we need to let Bowyer do his job over the summer, I think. And then
what I'm saying in that sense is, if you've got someone who works with Bowyer and who's willing to accept what Bowyer suggests, for example, and they can agree on targets between them rather than, like I said, apart from George Friend and Clayton, do I think that 90% of the transfers that were made were what Karanka wanted? I don't. I'll still think it was down to Dong ultimately who came in through that door.
Yeah.
Like ultimately, I think we sing the praise of Halilovic, rightly so. Halilovic was probably signed because it keeps Sunjic sweet for a little bit longer, because he's his mate, for example. You never know what. I'm never going to understand. I don't think we ever are going to understand what goes on in Dong's head. But I don't think any of the signings made realistically were what Karanka would have wanted. Karanka's probably been told what positions do you want, and that's about as far as it probably goes.
Yeah, and it was outsourced anyway, so that the one, no one has looked at. We haven't looked at our own squad and gone, this is where we need to improve. What we've done is outsourced it, and then they've gone, he's got a good goal contribution, or look, he's past completion, he could be good for you. Or that's the logic of our recruitment. That they weren't our targets anyway. We were given targets by outsourced recruitment, so they're not ours anyway. And then we're just. It's a monopoly, outsourcing recruitment's a monopoly, and you don't know what you're going to get. So, yeah, as I say, no scouts. It's never going to bode well, is it? So I can't even imagine the agent fees that we've been giving out, and it's going to be ridiculous to those numbers. But yeah, like you said, Elliot, we need someone above him that can work with him, just support him, back him. And I think I read something the other day about Bowyer, how he likes to be involved in recruitment, where he said he directly calls the player up and he has a chat with them. That's the best thing you can do. Old fashioned, get it done, have a chat with them, bit of courtesy and whatnot. Just let him do that. You don't hear Dong just chatting shit all the time. But everyone says that, once you meet Dong, he's a proper charming bloke when you meet him. But up there he's tapped, isn't he? So
But the thing is, as well, with Bowyer doing that, is Bowyer is there as a player. Bowyer knows what it's like to be a player at this club. So if you've got Bowyer giving them that outlook on the club, he can tell them like the back of his hand. And he can also tell them what he expects from them as well. And if a player doesn't like it after that chat, then they're not the player for us anyway, realistically. But I do agree, you've got to put, even if it's someone above him who they mutually agree, then, so that's the case. But at least then, if they mutually agree, Bowyer still wants that player. He still wants to go to push ahead with that deal. And we've got to bring in players that he wants. I don't think that like Karanka that wanted Cosgrove in January. I don't think he did. He wanted rid of Jukovic. We wouldn't sign a Jukovic replacement because he didn't use Jukovic. So he wouldn't replace him, would he, realistically? And Cosgrove's not your out and out. He's not a Karanka striker, as you'd call them, really, was he? I mean, Karanka got rid of Jukovic at Middlesbrough, so it's quite obvious that he wasn't a Jukovic fan. Why would he then sign a Jukovic replacement? So that set alarm bells off.
Yeah.
You
I don't know what kind of player Cosgrove is. I really don't, to be honest. You know,
I know.
It's all well and good doing it in Scotland for a season, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kieran said it a while back. It looked like a panic signing, didn't it? Couldn't get in his bit, couldn't get it over the line. The negotiations weren't going very well. We had Cosgrove on the back burner. Look at the signings we made in January. Now, I thought they were quite good at the time, but Jesus, like Valerie's barely made the bench. You know, Harper's not exactly. He's not done enough for me to think maybe we should try and get him on a contract next season. You know, send him back to West Brom and Cosgrove. Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't got his. Like you say, hopefully a few of his players in pre-season will come back different players and under better manager. So fingers crossed.
Well, I mean, Baggies lost 3-1 tonight, so they're down. So I would imagine that Harper will probably go back to them now and be a bit part player for them next season.
Yeah, he might not even get in their sides. He might not even get their
so
sides.
I imagine Harper will be to West Brom next season what we could use Sturk as.
Yeah.
And he can fill
Clayton.
gaps where needed. No, not
Like
Clayton. No. Get rid of him. He can go. Cut his contract up, pay him off, get rid of him.
West Brom next season are going to walk it. Who are they going to lose? Theoretically, you're only probably going to lose Pereira.
That's it, yeah.
Maybe Johnstone.
Johnston. That's it. I can't.
But it's a Burnley transfer window they had in a sense. Burnley always sign players at a top level championship. So if they go down, Premier League clubs aren't going to sniff around them realistically. And championship clubs, they're not going to go for them because they're probably at the best set club to go back up. So Burnley have got a squad that they're always going to be able to keep. And West Brom have got the same sort of thing. You look at Semi Ajayi at centre back and Bartley and players, you're going to lose Maitland-Niles and Gallagher on loan from them, but their squad is a top tier championship side. So who are they going to lose realistically?
Yeah, touching on Gallagher, do you think that Gallagher's warranted himself another Premier League move next season?
I like him, but
I'm not convinced he'll get another Prem move next season.
There's talk of him thinking he can stay and fight for his place at Chelsea, though, isn't there? And I don't think that's possible, to be honest. But where does he go then? Does he end up at someone like a Fulham or a West Brom again for a season?
Fulham's a good shout.
Go back to Swansea.
Hey, look, Fulham are just down the road as well, aren't they? They're local to literally on the same grounds on the same street as Chelsea's, isn't it? A couple of miles up. So it's just. Loftus cheek there this season.
Yeah, no, he's at Fulham.
So
he'll go back.
He's that's the sort of thing that he'd look at.
Chelsea don't want him. Chelsea don't want Loftus cheek.
Chelsea have got about 90 players out on loan every season. There's got to be one or two who we could sniff around, haven't there?
We've got Clark Salter.
I don't want Clark Salter again. I don't want Clark Salter again.
It's a shame for Clark Salter because I thought he was our last season. He was our most assured centre back. I thought, on the ball, composed, spray it about a little bit, left-footed, bit of composure. You could see he had a bit of pedigree, but this season, he hasn't kicked on at all. I think he played the game against Luton away, handful of games, and I don't know if that was a Karanka thing, but I think that Clark Salter would probably be decent under Bowyer.
The thing for me with Clark Salter was and especially after lockdown last season when things got a bit tough for us and we started to slope off towards the bottom three, I always thought he played with that sort of he always knew he was going back to Chelsea, so it didn't matter ultimately what happened on the pitch. And I don't know whether that's played a part this season when he was again. Do I think Karanka chose to bring Clark Salter back in the summer? I don't think he did. I think it was the fact it was easy to do it because he was there last season and Dong probably it was easier for him to. If maybe they turned around to Dong and said, "Do you want him back again for a season?" You never know, do you? We're not utilising him. Do you want him? He knows the place. So, but he's been a strange one, hasn't he, this season? Really, never really managed to cement a place when he has played, which you'd have thought he'd have been a shoo-in, especially when you watched how Dean and Roberts were at the start of the season.
He had a shocker though, didn't he? Was it Cardiff when he just gave it straight to
left back, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he had a shocker, and that was it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I wasn't surprised to see none of the lone players get a game under Bowyer. I think Bowyer's just come in and gone that you lot ain't going to be here next season. I want the players that are under contract going to be here next season, giving 100% commitment. And that's usually what happens when a new manager comes in. They sort of slide the lone players off and say, look, obviously you're not going to be here next season. So, sorry, but, we need 100% commitment now.
Valerie's down. Valerie's downfall for us was the fact that from the moment we signed him, even the manager at the time, Karanka, said he doesn't even know what his best position is. Or what have we signed a player that we don't even know where he can play? We don't need a utility man on loan. We've got players who can fill positions if that's what it's for. So he was always he was a panic signing in the sense of he was just to bring another body through the door on deadline day, wasn't it? To appease the fans. Did we ever really need him? No.
Yeah, it was a bad one, wasn't it? The January window, looking back on it, was a bad one.
Well, he's realistically, I'd say he's a right back, isn't he? Or he's a wing back at least. But then, do you want to bring a wing back in on the deadline day and then oust your main choice right back for half a season and ultimately piss him off for a player who's never going to stick around after the summer? So there was never really any logic behind it.
And the Southampton fans didn't really rate him. I mean, they don't rate him at all. So, why are we getting these players in? Like, he's probably on 30, 40 grand a week as well. So
they're fourth choice right back.
Yeah, there's no point in it. There's no future in it. There's no.
Well, at the time we signed him as well, Southampton were down to the bare bones in terms of signings and the players they had available, and they were still willing to let him go. Which
get him off the books.
Yeah, so that tells you all about that signing, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, who's been your player of the season then?
Tough one, isn't it?
Do I have to pick?
Yeah, I think there's a standout candidate. I think of a bad bunch.
I was going to say, it's a very difficult one, isn't it?
You know what? I'm going to go for the safe option. He had a shaky month or two, but I'll go with Etheridge. I think he had a really strong start to the season. I never felt uncomfortable with him in goal. I know he had a couple of shockers. He dropped a couple of crosses. I know he's not the most confident.
Kicking sometimes. Yeah.
Kicking's a bit. But I feel like he's definitely our number one now for the next couple of seasons. I think that's a solid sign in that. And he definitely could have a better season next year. Don't get me wrong. But I think if we're going on the short-term impact, Kieran won't like this, but I really thought Harley Dean stepped up in the last sort of 8 games. I know he's had some shockers this season.
Hold on. No. Right, okay. Credit where it's due to Harley Dean. Yeah, I've slated him numerous times on the podcast in the past few months, and to be fair, rightly so. Let's be honest. If we talk short-term impact, then yet again, you've got to say that Djukovic's goals are what have kept us up. Goals against Reading, goals against Derby. That's 6 points there, and he really has stepped up. I think it's too difficult when you think of who's. Bella's looked good in times. Sanchez has looked good, but no real end product. Halilovic, he played enough to really name him, but then when you do watch him, you just go, he's phenomenal. I don't really know who I'd pick, to be honest. Just short-term impact, I'm just going to say Djukovic.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Yeah. I think it's hard to pick a player if you're going on.
Roberts, because we finally got a bloody we finally worked with a long throw. So yeah, Roberts for the throw.
I'm going with Roberts. I am going to go with Roberts because I think he's the most improved player as well. I think he's grown as a player. He had the armband Cardiff, I think. I know we got smashed 4-0, but he made a rip that game. But he's crossing. He's a joke. He's like having Beckham on the centre half. Like we take them short throws and he whips them in. He's crossing. He's ridiculous. I didn't know he had it in his locker.
Because you watch him spray long balls around, and you never think he's got it.
Just a hefty centre half, but no, Roberts for me. When he's coming to the side, consistently been good, improved. I think he's got 5 goals this season or something, handful of assists. which is you wouldn't expect it from a centre half. But for me, yeah, Mark Roberts, I'm going for. I think he's got a lot of stick the last few seasons, and yeah, hasn't lived up to expectation. But this season, I think, yeah, over the last, even under Karanka, he was better than he has been before. But yeah, I'm going to go for Roberts. I think Roberts average Duke for me.
I think, especially when you look at the back four, Roberts is absolutely without a doubt the standout of the ones, especially even under Bowyer as well. I know they've all stepped up to the plate. Even old Harler, he's stopped celebrating his dog's breeding and focused on his football. So that's good to see. But like I say, Roberts has come on leaps and bounds. You mentioned the fact that he was captain and we got thumped 4-0 against Cardiff. An absolute worldly hat trick from Wilson as well, by the way. So, on another day, you think we don't lose that so heavily. But it's
yeah, Roberts. I think Roberts will win it as well. I think I've looked. I think Blues did a tweet the other day, vote for your player of the season, and I think majority of the comments were Roberts. I think some people said Colin as well for his consistency. You're going to get from Colin every game, I suppose. But yeah, most improved. I think Roberts. I think Roberts will win it as well, 100%.
I think that's the problem. You talk of Colin and you know what you're going to get. And I think that's half the problem for him. Really, is he's so consistent. 9 times out of 10, you get a solid 7 out of 10 performance from him, don't you? And but he's that consistent that he never really stands out when he is good.
Yeah.
Whereas Roberts, he's had some up and down moments this season. So when he's good, you go, I didn't know he could do that.
I agree with Roberts. He's been brilliant, but I don't know if you remember Kieran, but you go back a few months. I absolutely slayed him, didn't I?
You said he wasn't a championship player.
I did. I said he wasn't a championship player. And,
I do remember because you've gave me a bit of stick about Harley Dean for the past few weeks. So yeah, I've made sure I remember your little comments as well. Don't worry.
I felt justified in my opinion at the time. And I think he's come on. I think he's definitely stepped up as well. He's been phenomenal the last 10 games. He deserves all the recognition he hopefully will get. Will get player of the season. And fair play to him. Like I say, he's assisted goals. He's scored goals. He's contributed massively to us staying in this division towards the end. He did have a shaky patch around Christmas, but then the whole side were dreadful, weren't they, at the time?
The thing is, you see players who get stick and they take it. You either take it the right way or the wrong way, don't they? Ultimately, they never ignore it. They take everything on board that gets tweeted to them, and especially nowadays, it's that's really coming to the fore, isn't it? What the abuse that players get on Twitter and but if Roberts really has took it on board and just got on with it, like Harley Dean had some stick a couple of months back and scored against West Brom, and he called fans swats or whatever it was he said. I don't know.
I remember that. Yeah.
Look, great passion. That's what you want from a player, as Craig Gardner says, passion. So, but Roberts has just said, right, okay, and proved us wrong. And fair, like Elliot says, fair play to him. Absolutely fair play to him. He's can't ask for more than that from a player.
I think the season that's coming up now, you look at Harley Dean, Pedersen, the season that the lads that have been there 3-4 years now, and I think you look at them all, especially Harley Deans, Pedersen, a couple of them, and there's been 4 or 5 different managers that they've worked under, and we've been in the same situation every single season when those players have been there. And I think if they have another season like this season, we have to get rid of them next season, regardless. They're just thinking out the place. If they do it again, this is it now. They've got what they wanted. They forced Karanka out apparently for it was their decision. They told Donga. So look, it looks like they're playing for Bowyer. They can relate to him a bit more. I think Harley Dean's actually a family friend of Lee Bowyer as well. So obviously knows him well. He's a Cockney, blah blah blah. I think if they don't live up to expectation and we're in the same shit situation next year, that they've got to go. And I don't know, Harley D, he'll end up going to the Millwall or something, or one of those. But yeah, as I say, if they don't live up to it next season, get rid, 100%.
The thing that annoyed me about Harley Dean the most, and like Elliot says, I hold my hands up. He's been brilliant the past 10 games. They all have, and yeah, I don't think he was ever going to win the Player of the Month when you look at who he was up against, but he probably did deserve the nomination. And again, that winner against Rotherham, absolutely massive goal. I think the thing that annoyed me the most is for week after week after week under Karanka, it was mistake after mistake for him. He didn't really look bothered, didn't really put his body on the line. You heard the same old stuff from him in his interviews about how the players have got to look at themselves and stuff like that. And then the second Karanka goes, he scores the goal, does his little shoulder shrug celebration, which that's it's hilarious because every week we're commenting on Karanka's shoulder shrugs, but then at the same time you go that's our captain. That is, that's our captain who's clearly taking a swipe, and it just goes to show is it a case of he was shit because he didn't want to play for Karanka? And if that's the case, why have we got a player like that who's captain of our club? I want a captain of our club who doesn't matter who the manager is or what the ideas are. You put 100% on when you're on that pitch. You give 100%. That should be a captain of a club, and that's what really pissed me off, to be honest. But
I agree with you, Kieran. But I just think in that moment, I think it was probably just a release of I just think they were just relieved that he was gone. I know, I do agree with you. We just want committed players. It doesn't matter who the manager is, but Karanka was just, you know what? He was. I still refuse.
I'm sorry. I still refuse to accept that he's a bad manager. I think that Blues and Karanka were just. I just don't think Blues and Karanka were the right match. Really.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think Karanka. If you put a Karanka in with a team who, for a start off, Karanka's a defensive manager. We didn't sign any decent defenders. We kept what we had from the last season. We were never solid defensively. So we were never going to be able to do what Karanka wanted us to do. I think Karanka's downfall then was his reluctance to change.
But do you think a shrewd manager comes into Birmingham like Bowyer has and says, look, what have I got? How can I make this successful? He didn't do that. He played Djukovic as a lone striker for the majority of it. Yeah, you could tell that wasn't going to work without, and then he took the wingers off every time he brought him on.
I think your problem there was the fact that Karanka came in and was told it was a fucking 3-year project.
Well,
so he's obviously thinking the players will adapt to him rather than the other way around.
But you don't get 3 years in football unless you're Pep Guardiola, or even Thomas Tuchel won't get 3 years at Chelsea if he don't win something in the next.
No one will get 3 years at Chelsea. It doesn't matter how good they are.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. You don't get 3 years anywhere in football because as soon as you're in the bottom three, you don't get any time at all. It's pick up results or get out, and that was the case this season.
I do find it funny in the past few days, he's popped a couple of tweets out and old Karanka and turned his comments off. So everyone's been quote tweeting him instead, which is even better.
Yeah, I noticed that. He turned the comments off. I know Kane noticed it. He put a few tweets up about it. It was quite funny.
Well, I'm pretty certain the first tweet was a slight dig at us, to be honest. Because he said,
of course it is.
About Middlesbrough, wasn't it? And he put something along the lines of, it's always great to make a fan base happy, or something like that.
Yeah. It was a dig.
Wrong. I don't think Karanka is a bad manager. I just don't think that Blues in the situation we were in when he took the job were the right fit for him, and vice versa. I don't think he was the right fit. Don't get me wrong. I was absolutely delighted when we got him because you look at the names who we were linked with.
There's nothing to suggest him. I didn't see anything to suggest he was a good manager. Some people keep calling him like El Fraudo and that on Twitter. Like he's when he was at Middlesbrough, he had a couple of good seasons. Look, they had fucking Gaston Ramirez, Premier League players. We haven't got Premier League players. We've got John Terrell, who was good 3 years ago, just got relegated at Hull. Anyone can make a decent go of a side like that, splashing money around. I think I don't think there was anything to suggest that Karanka was a good manager. I mean, playing Hogan up top, two wingers. What's the point playing two wingers? You can put 20 balls in the box. Hogan's probably not going to win a header, but then you'd bring Duke on and take the two wingers off and put some centre midfielders on. It's just, I didn't see anything to suggest he was a good manager. And I think, I think Karanka needs a big budget and he needs a lot of things going on for him. He needs a really good setup for him to succeed. But with a club like us, limited resource, no, it's not a good match for him, and we should have known that.
I do think, or I will go out on, I don't think it's really that much of a big shout. I don't think you'll see him in English football again.
Probably
to be
not.
honest.
I wouldn't be surprised, mate. Nothing surprises me in
think so.
football. I mean,
You
you
know.
look at what he did at Forest. It was a complete car crash. He walked out on them because I don't
Well, he
know.
threw
I
his
don't
toys
know
out the pram at
ins and outs.
Middlesbrough a few times, didn't he? You know, there was
Yeah.
times he pissed off and didn't get a game on a Saturday because he had a fallout in the training ground on a Friday and stuff like that. Like, it is childish stuff at times, isn't it, that you read and you just go, you know, ultimately have you dodged a bullet? Because
I'd love to know the promises that he was given by Dong and the board and whatnot to come in and take the job in the first place, because we're a side obviously that have been circling down the bottom for quite a long while, and you think, well, it's not like you say, the setup wasn't quite there for him.
Is that another reason then, though? You know, like I say, is that another reason why maybe he didn't change along the course of the season? It's quite obvious that what he was doing wasn't working, but is there stuff being said to him behind the scenes where it doesn't matter about this season? You do what you're going to do, you know, sort of thing. Did he not change because he was being told one thing by the board? Maybe. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. You are here for the 3 years. You never know, do you? Especially with Dong. You really never know.
Yeah, I know. I'm just glad that season has ended as it has. But I feel like we've reviewed everything we can possibly. And what was the question you were going to ask Kane for the giveaway?
Oh yeah, so for the giveaway, Kane, we want to know what player you think is the one to watch for us next season out of the squad so far, obviously providing they stay.
Yeah, tough question that, to be fair, because I think we'll see a lot of loanees, and I'm not convinced who's going to stay and who comes in. But I think at the moment, look, if you ask me that in 2 months' time, I'll 100% give you an answer. But now, based on what we've seen and what we've got on the Bowyer, that's a tough question, man. I'm probably going to go with. Who am I going to go with? I'm probably going to go. Yeah, I'll say Bella. He's got to go with Bella, haven't we? I think there's a lot more. We haven't seen enough of him under Bowyer. We know what he can do. I think, providing he has another good pre-season and he fits, good play with wingers, I think we'll see the best Jeremy Bella we've seen yet. Understanding his role, what he's got to do. Djukovic up top will bring another striker in. We've only ever played really when Jeremy Bella's been here. Like, we had that run where Duke and Hogan were up top under Clotet. Bella was mustard at times when he first come in, murdering Bristol City away. I remember that game. Really, really positive, good bit of business. And I think it's understated how good a player Bella is for us. So, yeah, look, do it. We should keep him next season 100%. And I think if we do that, then we'll reap the rewards once he knows his role properly, what he's got to do. And yeah, fingers crossed he can step up, because we know what a good player he is at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Elliot, there's no giveaway on your opinion because it doesn't matter as much. But for you, what player do you think is the one to watch next season?
I liked Kane's answer. I think, I don't even know how old Bella is, but I know he's still quite young, isn't he? He's like
26, 27 maybe.
27?
Yeah, something like that.
So, yeah, definitely think it's his time next season or two. If he it's going to be his peak now, coming into his peak. So, yeah, it's now or never for him. And I don't really know. It's a tough one, because I'd like to think we might see the best of Sunjic next season, under Bowyer. And like you say, sometimes he looks like he resembles a headless chicken. And sometimes I think he's just a walking yellow card all the time. And
yeah.
But maybe next season, if he might, like you say, under better coaching, and he's still only 24. It's frightening to think that he's still only early 20s. That definitely a player that I think can improve, get better, and again, someone that's hopefully will understand his role more and be instructed better next season. And maybe Sunjic will come good.
We hope so. I just think with Sunjic, at the moment, he can't wait to get rid of the ball.
Yeah, I know.
Every second touch is a tackle with him. I think, as you said, look, he's obviously got potential. He pays £6 million, so step up, Ivan.
Yeah. When you think we beat the likes of AC Milan, apparently, to his signature as well.
Yeah, he made a good decision there, didn't
he? Yeah.
Yeah. There's only one place he was guaranteed European football.
What about you, Kieran? Who do you think?
Oh, I'm going to go right out on a limb. I'm going to stay Seddon.
Okay, fair play.
Purely because I think, and I don't know what gives me this impression, but I think we might go. I think we might see Pedersen as more of a centre back next season, and I thought you might see Seddon out wide. And if that's the case, I think, I just think I think Bowyer sees him as more of a ready-made starting 11 player rather than having to look outside of the club to bring someone in. And for that reason, I think you might see with a solid season under his belt a few good performances from him. So that's all I've gone with. It's probably going to be wrong, and we probably won't even renew his contract now, and I'll look an idiot in a few weeks. But there you go.
Well, great. Definitely should get his contract sorted out.
I agree.
He's got potential. Definitely got potential.
100%.
Yeah.
That's about it, really.
Cool.
Yeah, well, we'll wrap it up there then, because, like you say, we've covered everything. I think we can rest easy for a couple of months until early August, and then the depression starts again.
Just quickly, if you're going to predict now where we're going to finish next season, what are you predicting? Stabbing in the dark, really, but
I'm going to go 14. Comfortable 14. We'll be comfortable and just sort of slip away.
I was going to say 14th, but being you've said it, I'll say 13th. I'll be happy with anywhere in and around top to middle of the bottom half of the table, as long as we're comfortable enough that we're not shitting ourselves with a few weeks left, basically.
We sound optimistic, don't we? Oh, we've got a good manager. We've got this. Hold on.
We done optimism when we recorded at the start of last season, and we all said, we'll be happy with mid-table, and we never know what we're going to get with Karanka. And then after about 4 weeks, she was going, "That's it, season's done."
Actually, you know what? Scrap it. I'm going to say we're going to finish in the top 10.
I think we'll just miss out on the playoffs on goal difference.
I'm going to say top 10. I'm going to say 10th. 10th. I reckon we'll finish in the top 10.
What about you, Kane?
I'm going to get 7th.
Oof.
I think I'm optimistic. I don't know what it is, but I think we'll have a really good start. I think we'll have first 5-6 games. I think the fans will be back in. When you get a Bowyer team, everyone's behind us, bit of momentum. We know what we can be like when we've got a bit of momentum behind us. And I think, I'm going to get 7th. I'm going to get 7th. I think we'll have a really, really good first couple of months. Yeah.
We'll start with 3 points with Brentford on the first day.
Yeah, Pedersen header.
And then go from. I just hope that that we've seen what Bowyer can do, obviously, and that's with don't want to be too harsh, but a limited side in a sense. Good pre-season and a few signings. He knows what he wants. Realistically, I don't think he'd have took this job on the basis of the summer was just going to be a blind window in a sense. I think he kind of outlined that. Because he did take a big risk leaving Charlton. So I think the plans are already in place, I think, and hopefully that everyone buys into what he wants, and it can only get better, can't it? Realistically, after that.
Keep the faith. Keep the faith, lads.
Yeah. But all right, Matt. We'll wrap it up there. Okay, we'll get you on again at some point next season, so we can look back at this episode and think
laugh at us somewhere.
Yeah,
23rd.
Just slate each other for how fucking stupid we've been with our predictions.
Definitely. No, it's been good to come in on. Thanks for having me, lads.
No, thanks for coming on, mate. Brilliant. As always, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on the socials at BcfcMedia. And until next time, we'll speak to you soon.